This is NBC Nightly News with John Chancellor and David Brinkley. Tonight, Friday, May 20th, reported from the NBC News Center in New York.
Good evening. David Brinkley is off this evening. The United States and the Soviet Union have made progress toward a new treaty to limit strategic nuclear weapons. Talks in Geneva between Secretary of State Vance and Foreign Minister Gromyko ended today, and American officials said there are hopeful indications. Tomorrow, there will be details. Today, we have nothing specific except that serious negotiations have commenced and that there is reason for optimism. The new agreement, it is said, is a framework which contains agreements and disagreements from both sides. Richard Valeriani is in Geneva.
Vance left his hotel almost an hour later than scheduled this afternoon after conferring with the White House about the latest Russian proposal. The Secretary took the American response to those proposals to the Soviet embassy for his final meeting with Gromyko. Gromyko had presented the modified Soviet position at this morning's meeting after getting new instructions from the Kremlin. The Russians did not permit filming at the morning session, which lasted an hour. They did all the talking. Neither side provided any clues to substance, with Gromyko saying, "We are silent like fish." Afterward, Vance declined to say what had been achieved.
We've finished our talks. We are going to issue a joint communique tomorrow morning, which we'll be working on tonight. And I'm going to have a press conference tomorrow morning at 11 o'clock. So I think I'll really say no more of that until the press conference tomorrow, except to say that the talks have been very useful as far as we're concerned, and I believe that view is shared by the Soviets as well.
However, another American official later told NBC News, all is okay, suggesting that the two sides had reached at least some kind of an agreement about what to do next. Richard Valeriani, NBC News, in Geneva.
Vice President Mondale and South African Prime Minister John Vorster finished their talks today on a sour note. Mondale said there was fundamental and profound disagreement on questions of South African racial policy and said South Africa would not get American help if a racial conflict broke out. Vorster defended his country's policy of separation of the races. Mondale flew from the Vorster talks in Vienna to Belgrade, but canceled his engagements there because he's got a stomachache. Also on the program this evening, that American general who was ordered home from Korea for a presidential bawling out, something on that story, prices going up at a double-digit rate. Charles Lindbergh, and the great old sport of croquet is played on the greensward in Central Park.
Remember.
Remember what?
I can't remember.
Did you want your vitamins?
That's it.
Wait, they're in your cereal.
Huh?
Product 19.
If you forget your vitamins, remember Kellogg's Product 19. A 1-ounce serving has 100% of the U.S. recommended daily allowance of 10 vitamins and iron.
I like it.
Good. Now can you remember this number?
Vitamins that taste too good to forget. Product 19.
You're about to see something remarkable. Inkjet printing from IBM, a word processing breakthrough. In slow motion, see how ink is guided electronically to form letters of typewritten quality at speeds no typewriter can touch. Type, margins, and spacing are changed automatically. Envelopes and paper are fed automatically. Inkjet printing, part of IBM Office System 6. Fantastic.
Major General John Singlaub, third in command of our troops in South Korea, returned to the United States this evening. He had told the Washington Post that withdrawal of American troops from South Korea, as planned by the administration, would lead to war. And that provoked President Carter into ordering Singlaub home at once. Yesterday, we were told that the president acted very quickly in ordering the recall of General Singlaub, picking up the phone just after reading what the president had said in the morning paper. Today, White House officials offered some long-range foreign policy reasons for the president's action. Marilyn Berger talked to some White House officials today. Marilyn, what are they saying?
Well, John, they're very upset. Obviously, the president was concerned about this breaking of the chain of command and publicly going against the president's policy. But they are also saying that what General Singlaub said went absolutely contrary to what Korean President Park Chung-hee has been saying about the strength of his own forces. And secondly, they feel that his remarks saying that it would weaken South Korea if the United States were to withdraw damn near constituted an invitation to the North Koreans to attack and to test the American commitment there.
And that was a quote from a White House official.
Yes.
Marilyn, do you think that General Singlab has put the White House on the spot by emphasizing Mr. Carter's plan to pull out the ground troops?
Well, I think they had certainly hoped that the negotiations, which are to start next week, could go forward in a less public manner. I mean, it was known they were going to begin, but I don't think they wanted that much of a spotlight on them. And an indication of how much they wanted to give a rationale for the president's action was that they said that it could affect the Russians and they could begin to question who is in charge here, whether it's the military or the president. And secondly, that the Chinese may begin to get a little bit worried. The Chinese like American strength in Asia, and that if the Chinese felt that the Americans were getting weaker, they might try to cement relations with the Russians, and that we don't want.
Well, Marilyn, thank you for those interesting reasons from the White House today. Thank you. Marilyn Berger. The United States suffered 157,000 casualties in the Korean War of 1950 to 1953. There are those who say the war started because the United States Army in Korea was too weak, which is why we should be strong there now. There are those who say that it would be folly to allow American troops to be involved again in a war on the Asian mainland. Those are the 2 points of view. Jim Laurie of our staff has been out with the troops, and here is what he has learned.
These are men of the U.S. 2nd Division, 15,000 strong, the bulk of U.S. ground troops in South Korea. And whether you talk to military men, government officials, or even Korean opposition groups, nobody here wants to see them go. But President Carter argues the U.S. simply cannot risk having ground troops involved again in an Asian war. American officials say the U.S. is still committed to South Korea's defense. But now, this is what the U.S. wants to rely on: air power. The Air Force will stay and may even be expanded. As it stands now, roughly 20,000 Americans are stationed within 10 miles of the Korean DMZ. Most experts agree they act as a war deterrent to North Korea and a boost to South Korean morale. Take away that deterrent without a North Korea non-aggression pact, critics argue, and you're walking on a tightrope where one slip could lead to war. Korean dissidents argue further that U.S. troop presence should be offered as an incentive to President Park for adopting more democratic ways in the South. With objections here to U.S. troop pullout strong, field commanders will make 2 principal arguments to visitors from Washington. 1, delay withdrawal as long as possible. And 2, provide an extensive new aid program to South Korea to offset the loss of U.S. troops. Jim Laurie, NBC News, with the 2nd Division in South Korea.
Menachem Begin has had a busy day in Israel today. He's the man who will be the next prime minister, and he was briefed on government policies, said he is ready personally to lead Israeli peace negotiators, and began picking members of a team he wants to send to the United States to explain his party's hardline stance. Begin has pledged to increase Israeli settlements in the West Bank area of occupied Jordan. Here's American policy on that. Officials say there's been no change in the position asserted last year, which described Israeli settlements on the West Bank as being, quote, illegal. That's the American position today.
See her? She's important. She's got clout. I've got clout, too. So maybe I don't buy one in every color, but I carry clout.
Your Master Charge card carries clout. Clout means acceptance. Clout opens doors. Your Master Charge card gives you a personal account in over 2 million places worldwide. That's clout.
That's Master Charge. It lets you relax.
Just listen to your kitten purr. You don't want fleas to torture her. That's why your precious ball of fur wears the heart's 2-in-1 collar. As she grows, while it keeps her free of itchy, ugly, nasty fleas, it protects your home, your family, the heart's 2-in-1 collar.
Get the cat or dog you love the Heart's 2-in-1 collar.
Get the white collar, the heart's 2-in-1 collar. It kills both ticks and fleas.
The cost of living went up 0.8% last month, according to the Labor Department. It was the fourth straight month of consumer price increases, and those prices will be in double digits if this should continue for the rest of the year. The price of food alone went up 1.5%. The White House said that was clearly not good news. The price of energy climbed too, and that made an important congressional committee nervous. Irving R. Levine covered that story.
Matched by tax rebates, tax incentives.
The Joint Economic Committee was examining the effect of the Qatar Energy Program on the economy when it received the latest cost of living figures showing that gasoline prices rose 30% more in April than the month before. The figures worried the committee members.
I'm concerned that the appraisals of the energy plan show a significant unwelcome effect on the inflation rate. And I've just been given a note that the CPI, the Consumer Price Index, this morning is up 0.8% in April to set a 9.9, almost 10% annual rate for the last 3 months, the latest 3 months. Energy prices could account for roughly 1.5 to 2 percentage points in the overall inflation rate in the next few years.
One estimate from a panel of economists was that higher energy prices will hurt the poorest families most. But Treasury Secretary Blumenthal said the poor will be helped by an energy tax rebate.
It should, if anything, benefit the lowest income groups and the welfare recipients and Social Security recipients.
At today's hearing, administration officials claim that the Qatar Energy Program will add only about 0.4% each year to the cost of living. But other experts estimated that the average family's cost of living will go up by more than 6% a year. So everyone agreed that the energy program will make inflation worse. The only disagreement was how much worse. Irving R. Levine, NBC News, at the Capitol.
The first battle of the Long Island clam beds was fought today, and the clammers, said to be a hard-shell lot, won. 2 weeks ago, the state of New York, under federal pressure, shut down 2,600 acres of clam beds off Long Island. The reason? Pollution. Long Island supplies the country with half the clams it eats. The clammers weren't about to give up. Robert Hager covered the battle on land and sea.
The clammers scoff at New York State's claim that the water might be polluted. This morning, they gathered at one of the beds that was supposed to be closed off Babylon, New York. They ate clams and said they were good. One of the clammers jumped in the water. Police and state conservation officers watched nervously from shore. The clammers taunted them with a little half-hearted clamming. That was enough. 2 officers rushed out. But the officers were outnumbered and surrounded. The conservation man waved a stick to keep the clammers back. Now, more police to the rescue. So the clammers decided to back off. The officers were allowed to make an orderly retreat. As more reinforcements arrived, a police helicopter. Only last winter, the clammers had grounded a helicopter, puncturing its pontoons with a clam rake. 3 bigger police boats also arrived. The clammers beat on their own boats with sticks, then charged one of the police vessels, but the boat backed away from a fight. All this time, the clammers' lawyers had been ashore looking for a judge. They finally found one at a nearby state mental institution, hearing petitions from inmates. The clammers' lawyers interrupted the proceedings, asking the judge for a hearing to reopen the clam beds, claiming the water really isn't polluted. The judge agreed to order the beds temporarily reopened until June 1st, when he'll hear more testimony. Back on the waterfront, the clammers were now ashore in the midst of another confrontation with police, and the lawyer arrived with the news.
The bay is open as of now. The bay is open. Show a piece of paper.
So, round 1 is a victory for the clammers. Round 2 comes up June 1st, when the case goes back to court. Robert Hager, NBC News, Babylon, New York.
As expected, Japan agreed officially today to export no more than 1,750,000 color television sets to the United States every year for the next 3 years. Last year alone, the figure was 40% higher than that. The administration also says the agreement won't raise the price of Japanese television sets. General Louis B. Hershey is dead. He sent 14.5 million young Americans into 3 wars as the director of selective service. He died in his sleep today in Indiana. He was 83. The date is March the 17th, 1942. This is the 3rd draft drawing of World War II. Hershey would also see men into the Korean War and into Vietnam. On this occasion, the number was drawn by Secretary of War Henry Stimson, and as was customary on these occasions, when the fate of millions of Americans was being decided, the number was read aloud by General Hershey.
Well, the higher coffee prices go, the more you need Mr. Coffee. Mr. Coffee, with this exclusive coffee saver, saves coffee, saves money. 2 ways. First, percolators make you use up to 50% more coffee per potful than Mr. Coffee. Second, with Coffee Saver, you make only the exact number of cups you want. That's great. Remember, Mr. Coffee with Coffee Saver saves coffee, saves money.
You know, it's not just the passing years that can make you look older. Sun, wind, harsh weather can steal your young look by drying your skin. Discover Oil of Olay, the mysterious beauty fluid that can help you look younger by creating a moist climate for your skin. Oil of Olay doesn't just sit there. It penetrates quickly without feeling greasy, so you look fresh and radiant. So why let weather make you look older?
Discover the secret of Oil of Olay. It can help you look younger, too.
Our special this evening is the celebration of an anniversary. 50 years ago today, Charles Lindbergh flew the Atlantic, the first person to do it alone. His widow, Anne Morrow Lindbergh, said today, some aim greater than survival sent him on his flight to Paris. Lindbergh once wrote, the goal of man is man himself. She said today that meant the character of individual man, his courage, his integrity, his creativity, his compassion, his reverence for life of all kinds. That's a pretty good description of Charles Lindbergh. Eric Burns reports.
Here is Charles Lindbergh as an old man talking about his flight from New York to Paris as a young man.
Here, all around me, is the Atlantic. A minute ago, I was a creature of the land, thinking of the ocean ahead. Now I'm a creature of the ocean, sensing the exhilarating coolness of the water.
When he was a boy, Charles Lindbergh spent his summers in this house in Little Falls, Minnesota. He would lie on the grass and look up at the sky and dream, he said, of having wings like a hawk. When he was 20, he became a stunt pilot. After that, an airmail pilot. But he had a lot of crashes in those days. He is believed to be the first person to have survived a crash between 2 planes in the air. And he is certainly the first person to have crashed into the hardware store in Campwood, Texas, while trying to take off from the main street. He was not discouraged by these, however, and he decided to fly to Paris. Already 6 men had been killed and 3 injured trying to fly the Atlantic. But at 8 minutes before 8 on the morning of May 20th, 1927, Charles Lindbergh took off from New York. He was alone, but millions of people were thinking about him. This was the scene in Paris, 33.5 hours later. Thousands of people broke through the fences at Le Bourget Airport and ran onto the field and pushed against his plane and broke it, too. The next day, the New York Times devoted most of its first 6 pages to this 25-year-old man who had become literally an overnight hero. When he returned to New York, more than 4 million people came out to see him and idolize him and throw 1,800 tons of confetti at him. He became such a celebrity that many times when he took his clothes to the laundry, people who worked at the laundry would steal them. Souvenirs. Charles Lindbergh did more for commercial aviation than any man who ever lived. The year before his flight to Paris, commercial airlines in the United States carried only 1,500 passengers. But the year after, they carried 53,000. And the year after, Lindbergh's plane went to the Smithsonian Institution in Washington. He would visit it from time to time over the years. One time, he got a ladder from a security guard and climbed up into the cockpit. sat there alone again for almost an hour. That was in 1959. Charles Lindbergh died in this house on the Hawaiian island of Maui in the summer of 1974. Last week in Chicago, 700 people paid $125 apiece for a dinner to honor Lindbergh. The money will be used for scholarships. So will the money from other dinners in other cities. Bud Gurney was a friend of Lindbergh's, a fellow pilot for 55 years.
He was an idealist, as many of us were, and thoroughly devoted to the idea, the dream of flight, and thoroughly convinced that flying could be safe, that danger disappeared when knowledge was gained, when experiencing knowledge took its place.
In 1969, men landed on the moon.
Beautiful view. You got something? Hey, magnificent sight out here.
We Americans never really knew whom to congratulate for this, the astronauts, or the technicians, or the computers. But Charles Lindbergh flew to Paris alone, and he helped to design his plane, and build his plane, and even raise the money for his plane. We knew whom to congratulate, and so we did. And 50 years later, we still do. Eric Burns, NBC News.
1 ounce of Total has 100% of the recommended daily allowance of all these important vitamins and iron.
Okay.
I'll pour this leading natural cereal. Stop me when you think the vitamin value equals Total.
Stop.
Not yet.
That's it.
Nope.
Is that right?
It takes at least 16 ounces of any leading natural cereal to equal the vitamins in 1 ounce of fortified Total.
That's a big difference.
That's the total difference.
Ever read the insert in a box of cotton swabs? Never insert cotton swab tips into ear canal to remove wax. Yet inside the ear canal, excess wax can harden to create pressure, pain. But now there's eardrops and ear washer by Murine. Murine's eardrops gently, safely soften hard excess wax when used as directed. Then Murine's ear washer gently washes wax away, so pressure and pain are relieved. Eardrops and ear washer by Murine.
Imagine, every 30 seconds, a savings and loan association helps a family buy or build their own home. That's every 30 seconds, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. The fact is, savings and loans finance more homes than all other financial institutions combined. Think of it. That's one home every 30 seconds. This message was brought to you by the Savings and Loan Foundation.
Billy Carter slept at his brother's house last night for the first time. He described the place at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue as too damn big. He is 15 pounds lighter than a few weeks ago because of a special diet. He said it eliminates food, but not beer. Madame Pompadour, who always considered her figure, became the property of the British government today. Her portrait by an 18th century court painter is said to be worth $1,200,000. It was on sale at an auction in England today and purchased by the National Gallery so the picture would not leave the country. The price was not disclosed. And finally, on a Friday evening, sport. Croquet, to be exact, a game played on manicured lawns by manicured people and occasionally in Central Park in New York City. Richard Hunt reports.
In 1904, croquet was an Olympic sport, but it was more popular as a social game played on the broad lawns of big estates by whatever rules pleased the master of the house. Now the U.S. Croquet Association is trying to revive the game as a competitive sport with a revised set of rules. The championship matches in New York drew top players from as far away as Arizona and Bermuda. Under the complicated new rules, a scorer keeps track of the position of every ball. The game calls for strategy and a killer instinct.
So before you even strike the ball, you have to see what the other players are doing in the positions. It's like chess on grass.
And it has a tendency to bring out the very worst in some people and some of the best in some people.
Oh, we hate each other.
But we can't hate each other too much, because the guy we're against might be your partner in the next game.
It looks relaxed and casual on a manicured lawn, but in a tournament, the players are very, very intense. A player has only 1 minute to figure out each shot, plan where he wants to be for the next shot, line up on the ball, and hit it. It's the thinking that looks so painful. Every now and then, there's an argument.
He hit the black ball.
Most of the players are businessmen, professional men, or their wives and widows. So they're polite, but very determined.
Jack.
Yes, it was.
Come here one second.
Darling, it doesn't make any difference. He hit it.
Where's Teddy?
It's in the stroke, then it is a missed stroke. It's a missed stroke. It is similar to hitting 2 balls with your mallet.
As a spectator sport, croquet has a long way to go.
It is not a spectator sport in any form, shape, or way. Actually,
Teddy, I'm talking to that camera over there, and he's recording me. It's a wireless microphone. Okay, thank you. As a spectator sport, croquet has a long way to go. In this game, it's the players who get the kicks. As one of them said, it's one game where you can drink and play at the same time. Richard Hunt, NBC News, New York.
Have a nice weekend, everybody. Have a nice weekend, everybody, and good night for NBC News.
Weed Eater invented the greatest lawn care tool since the Power Mower. From a popcorn can, the Weed Eater Trimmer. It cuts grass with fishing line, not metal blades. Weed Eater tools are lightweight, quick, and easy. No bending, no stooping. They trim, edge, sweep, and mow in hard-to-reach places. Demand the original. Demand quality. Demand Weed Eater. 7 models. The Weed Eater family can cut it.
If you sometimes suffer pain or itch of hemorrhoidal tissues, use Preparation H for hours of comfort in many cases.
When itching or pain occur, Preparation H helps relieve itching and soothes pain promptly in many cases. Then Preparation H goes beyond soothing. Actually helps shrink swelling of hemorrhoidal tissues caused by inflammation.
For temporary relief of hemorrhoid symptoms, get Preparation H. Goes beyond soothing, helps shrink swelling of hemorrhoidal tissues.
They said it was impossible.
Just doesn't look as if it can be done. Maybe planes aren't up to it.
But that didn't stop Charles Lindbergh, and so he did what no man ever did before. James Stewart stars in the story of a life full of danger and adventure. See The Spirit of St. Louis, tonight at 8:30, 7:30 Central and Mountain Time.
You old boys that grow soybeans kind of like to do things your own way, and I guess that's why you like Syncor so much. I'm Jimmy Dean, and Syncor is a soybean herbicide that really puts the broadleaf punch into the most popular grass herbicides. So, put Syncor on like it says, and you've got the very